Let's face it, Joy Behar was never really that funny as a comedian, but it seems like she's getting even crabbier lately when it comes to Republicans. I don't think any other incident is a more vivid example of this than the new Speaker Mike Johnson's election, who for some reason brings out an even more vitriolic side to her just because he happens to be a conservative Christian. Let's just watch these next clips from The View and you'll see why.
And by the way, this other one, this Johnson person who is now the Speaker of the House, he goes around, I just saw him on the TV, saying that he had a phenomenal first term, Trump, he goes. His first 2 terms, as you all know, we brought about the greatest economic numbers in the history of the world. And it turns out that he inherited a booming economy from Obama, which he then drove into the ground during the COVID crisis.
Yes. You would think that Donald Trump's record on the economy would be hard to dispute, but apparently not. I don't expect someone like Joy Behar to know the intricacies of the global economy, but the fact is the Trump era was defined by an economy proven resilient in the wake of the pandemic, no matter what side you're on. It grew at a reliable rate of 2 to 3% a year on average during his tenure, with more than 4.2 million people lifted out of poverty. Do you see that complex interplay of context and factors that an economy lives in? Of course, The View would be happy to run with one-dimensional narratives around the economy because they know that it's the last wall that they cannot knock down. But since Joy Behar is comparing the Trump economy to Obama's, let's also remember that the economic growth in Obama's second term was in a large part spurred on by a drop in global oil prices and rise in consumer spending. The world was coming out of a global recession in 2008, and you're expected to see an apparent boom when that happens. Those are just some surface facts on the economy that Mike Johnson probably understands better than any panelist on the show, which you can imagine reduces much of their talking points into more ad hominem like this next clip.
He did. So this enabling Johnson, who I cannot stand him, he's like a right-wing religious zealot who wants the whole country to be Christian.
Research on him.
The country is not all Christians, okay? What's his first name?
Mike.
So what's wrong with that, Joy? Isn't almost every belief system evangelizing to a degree, whether religious or secular? Like it or not, America's still a Christian majority nation with a number standing at 64% today, identifying as such. I don't understand that level of cognitive disconnect in someone like her, all for wanting democracy but recoiling when the majority dares pick something she doesn't like. And to refresh her memory, the First Amendment protects the right to not just practice religion, but also to preach it through free expression. I feel like it's a kind of hubris that overtakes people like this when talking about religious people, hence the disdain for Mike Johnson. And if I do remember correctly, isn't she the same woman that has previously ripped into Mike Johnson himself as a wolf in sheep's clothing on the issue of abortion? So is she allowed to evangelize her worldview on vital issues sitting on national television, but he isn't?
Looks mild-mannered.
Does he?
Yeah, he has the glasses.
mild-mannered.
But at least Matt Gaetz and Jim Jordan have the decency to look evil. This guy is like a wolf in sheep's clothing. Just watch him. Mild-mannered, anti-abortion, anti-LGBT, anti-climate change. He's a big taker of fossil fuel money. The guy, and by the way, the hubris of these Republicans to go against the will of the American people. American people are all in for women's rights, gay rights, climate change things happening to fix the environment so that we don't all die on this planet or drown on this planet.
I have to say, if I met someone that didn't know Joy Behar, I'd show them this 30-second clip and they'll know everything that they need to know about her worldview. It's the most predictable string of left-wing talking points that you could expect from any rowdy 18-year-old activist type to parrot. Clearly not much changes even when you're in your 80s. Joy's obsession with the new speaker, Mike Johnson, is probably also driven by the fact that he's rising fast in the Republican Party to potentially become a presidential candidate in 2028. Couple this with the fact that Mike himself has previously criticized The View for drumming up non-factual paranoia around climate change, and we've got the perfect recipe to why the two just don't like each other. As it stands now, it's safe to say that Joy Behar needlessly and repeatedly coming at Mike Johnson is very similar to what's happening to a lot of religious believers in public life. It's a culture taken over by a small but very vocal minority that squeezes the space for religious expression by using ridicule. You're constantly gaslit for holding the opinions you hold and are dismissed as some kind of religious zealot that cannot think for themselves. But if all of that is coming from a show like The View, you can perhaps take solace in the fact that it means you're probably on the right side.